Hello and welcome to another episode of In the News for April 5th, 2021. I'm your host, Freddie Shaban, and today I have a great story for you about a congressman and also have another bust story out of Houston of human trafficking. So without further ado, let's go. All right, so the first story is coming to you from the United States Department of Justice, from the Southern District of Texas. Title, Family Members Arrested for Sex Trafficking. And this is dated April 1st, 2021. Houston. 4 Houston area residents have been charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy to do so, announced Acting U.S. Attorney Jennifer B. Lowery. Maria Botello, 54, her son Edgar Botello, 28, her nephew Arian Botello, 23, and her daughter Yudy Lucatero, 31, are expected to make their initial appearances before U.S. Magistrate Judge Frances Stacy at 2 p.m. on April 2nd. The criminal complaint filed March 30th alleges that from 2007 to 2020, the family members coerced waitresses working at the Houston bar Puerto Alegre to engage in commercial sex act. The victims allegedly included adults and at least one minor. The charges allege Maria Botello coordinated dates with clients who paid $70 for every 15 minutes with the girls. Edgar and Arian Botello were the enforcers who used weapons, threats, and intimidation to keep the victims compliant, according to the complaint. The investigation also revealed Lucatero and Maria Botello discussed the rules and procedures in relation to the sex trafficking. Authorities ultimately identified another victim who was brought to the United States specifically to work at Puerto Alegre, according to the allegations. While there, she was allegedly forced to engage in commercial sex. The charges allege she was only 17 at that time. If convicted, the family members each face a minimum of 10 years and up to life in federal prison. The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission initiated the investigation with the assistance of the Houston Police Department and Homeland Security investigation. Okay. So here's my thoughts about this case. First of all, we don't know really everything that happened. One thing I learned about going through stuff myself with district attorneys and U.S. attorneys and investigators and all this stuff, that you can't always believe everything that you hear or you read, okay? Because there's always 3 sides to every story. Their side, these people's side, the family that get indicted, and the truth. So somewhere the truth is in between. And I got to tell you, the one thing that struck me first is that they're actually using weapons, supposedly, allegedly, to entice these people. And you know what? That could be kind of true. However, you got to think about it logically. At some point, and I'm not defending anybody, just thinking logically, I'm using my analytical thinking, okay? At some point, if you're an adult and you're working, and it's not like they're making big money, $70 for 15 minutes, and I'm sure they got to at least split it with these people, so they're getting $35. I mean, come on, right? At some point, if these people were not happy, didn't want to do it, they can go somewhere else and get a job as a barista at Starbucks and make $2,000 a month. That's number one. Number two, the fact of them having been in operation for 13 years, they said from 2007 to 2020, that tells me that if there was a lot of bad things going on, right, these guys are either geniuses, criminal masterminds, the one that this family and all this, or that some of this stuff is exaggerated. That's just my humble opinion. That's because nothing going to go on for 13 years with all this drama and nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to tell somebody. Nobody's going to get pissed off. Nobody's going to feel a certain type of way. And we know that emotions what drive people to most of their actions. So that being said, I don't know about this story. I don't know really what happened. I'm going to keep following up. I'll give you an update, but it doesn't really sound totally kosher to me, just from my experience. But who knows? Just as a disclaimer, I'm totally against human trafficking. I'm totally against operating under duress or coercing people to do stuff or manipulating them and all this stuff, okay? So there's no mistaking about what my intentions are. All I'm saying is I know how law enforcement work and how know what they like to put out in press releases so they can feel good and look good. It's all about ego for them. And they got to justify their jobs and their budgets. So that's only what I'm saying. I'm sure you heard about this. It's been all over the news. This one here is coming to you from the New York Times, which is a very, very reliable source most of the time for stories. So this is dated April 2nd, 2021. So this is literally Friday. Today is Monday. So the title, The Matt Gaetz Investigation, What We Know. If you heard about this, it's been all over the news the last week or so. It's very interesting, and I wanted to cover it for you today just to see what the hell's going on. The Justice Department is said to be investigating the congressman's encounters with women recruited online for sex and whether he had sex with a 17-year-old girl. Okay, so the Justice Department is investigating whether Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida and a close ally of former President Donald J. Trump, broke federal sex trafficking laws focusing on his relationship with women recruited online for sex and whether he had sex with a 17-year-old, the New York Times reported this week. Investigators appear to be focused on at least two key questions, according to people briefed on their work. The first is whether Mr. Gaetz, 38, had sex with a 17-year-old and whether she received anything of material value. More broadly, federal authorities are scrutinizing involvement by the congressman and an indicted Florida associate with the woman who also received cash payments. Mr. Gaetz, a third-term congressman who represents the Florida Panhandle, has denied that he paid for sex or had a sexual relationship with a minor. So far, he has not been charged, and the extent of his criminal exposure remains unclear. The investigation is continuing. Here is what we know so far. The investigation includes an examination of payment to women. Federal scrutiny of Mr. Gaetz grew out of an open investigation into a close Republican associate of the congressman's, Joel Greenberg, the former tax collector in Seminole County, Florida, who was indicted last year on a charge of sex trafficking and other counts. So obviously this guy got in trouble and he started tattletaling. Investigators believe that Mr. Greenberg connected with women online through websites meant to facilitate dates in exchange for gifts, fine dining, travel, and cash allowances. Oh, that sounds like sugar daddy for me and seeking arrangement. Mr. Greenberg would then introduce the women to Mr. Gaetz, who also had sex with them in Florida hotels, sometimes while taking ecstasy, an illegal mood-altering drug, according to people familiar with the encounters. Oh, wow, he's really doing, huh? He's really doing it up. The Times also reviewed receipts from Apple Pay and other mobile payments app that show Mr. Gaetz and Mr. Greenberg transferring funds to one such woman, and Mr. Greenberg to another. The woman told friends that the money was in exchange for sex. While it is legal to pay for other adult hotel stays, meals, and other gifts, prosecutors could try to prove that the payments were really in exchange for sex. Well, let me read that again. While it is legal to pay for other adults' hotel stays, meals, and other gifts, prosecutors could try to prove that the payments were real in exchange for sex, which would be a crime. Oh, so you can pay a woman her hotel room, give her a gift, buy her food, as far as Florida is concerned, I guess, but you can't do that for sex. Okay. All right. Well, some people are going to use that as a new ploy to operate. Investigators are also trying to determine whether Mr. Gaetz or any other men connected to him had sex with a 17-year-old girl and gave her anything of value. Two people briefed on the investigation said the sex trafficking count that Mr. Greenberg is facing involved the same girl. The plot thickens. Federal law prohibits giving a minor anything of value in exchange for sex, including meals, hotel stays, drugs, alcohol, or even cigarettes. A conviction under the sex trafficking statute carries a 10-year mandatory minimum prison sentence. Mandatory minimum means that the judge has no choice. He's got to give it. Of course, Gaetz has denied wrongdoing related to sex. Mr. Gaetz, an outspoken and combative fixture of conservative media, has repeatedly dismissed the investigation as politically motivated and unfounded. Of course he's going to do that, defending his past relationship with women. Quote, I have a suspicion that someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward, Mr. Gaetz said in an interview on Tuesday. He said he had not had a sexual relationship with a minor and called other accusations of wrongdoing unequivocally false. What did you think he was going to say? Matt Gaetz has never paid for sex, his office said in a statement. On Thursday, when asked to comment on possible sexual arrangements with women, Matt Gaetz refutes all the disgusting allegations completely. Matt Gaetz has never ever been on any such websites whatsoever. Matt Gaetz cherishes the relationships in his past and looks forward to marrying the love of his life. And now he's claiming he's being extorted. Disclosure of a serious federal criminal investigation would typically prompt carefully vetted statements and studied silence in Washington. Mr. Gaetz has gone on a media tour, instead confirming the existence of the inquiry while shifting attention to another attention-grabbing claim that his family is being targeted by two men trying to extort it for $25 million in exchange for making potential legal problems go away. Okay, how convenient all of a sudden. The men have denied that they were trying to extort the Gaetzes. The men, Robert Kent, a former Air Force intelligence officer, and Stephen Alford, a real estate developer who has been convicted of fraud, did approach Mr. Gaetz' father, Don Gaetz, last month about finding efforts to find an American hostage in Iran named Robert A. Levinson. Written records provided to the Times and interviews with people involved show that the men were aware of at least the prospect that Matt Gaetz could face legal jeopardy and suggested that Mr. Levinson's successful return could help win the congressman a presidential pardon. Don Gaetz declined their proposal, but then reported the approach to the FBI out of concern there was possible extortion. The authorities now appear to be investigating the matter. Mr. Kent said he had no intention of extorting the Gaetzes. By his account, he was merely proposing a business deal and believed the rumor he had heard about Matt Gaetz might help make it more attractive. Oh, now they're trying to mix the two together. I told him I'm not trying to extort, but if this were true, he might be interested in doing something good, Mr. Kent said. For now, Mr. Gaetz does not appear to be going anywhere. Mr. Gaetz told the Times in an interview this week that he had no plan to resign from Congress, but as the investigation continues, he could face pressure either to step down or temporarily relinquish his spot on the House committee that oversees the Justice Department. He should not be sitting on a congressional committee with oversight over the DOJ while the department is investigating him. Representative Ted Lau, Democrat of California, wrote on Twitter. A few Republicans have stood up. Those are serious implications. Okay. I mean, where do I begin, you guys? Seriously. If this was you and me, a regular citizen, I promise you we'll be already in jail. Guaranteed, hands down, no question, no doubt. 100%. Listen, there's a privileged class, like congressmen and, some rich people and all this stuff. And there's the rest of us poor people. Because they have contacts and they have power and they have a lot of great attorneys and they know what they know, right? Knowledge is power. So there's got to be some truth to this if it's all over the news. I mean, New York Times is not just going to report something, right? They have a great investigative team. They've always, broke a lot of amazing stories that turn out to be true. So they're not going to put their reputation, their integrity, their brand on the line for lying about things. So listen, this guy Gaetz or anybody else, we're all humans, we're all men. You've heard me say it before. Men are going to be men. You're not going to change our nature. We like to be intimate with women or whoever. Some like men, some like trannies, whatever it is, right? And we're wired a certain way. And nothing is going to stop us. Nothing is going to stop him just because he's a congressman. If he's going to play, he's going to play. If he wants to be intimate with another woman, he's going to do it. If she's underage, he effed up. Okay, stuff happens. Anyways, that's only my 2 cents. You know, please leave me what you think in the comments. If you agree, disagree, whatever your opinion is, I value it. We have freedom of speech in this country. And again, thank you so much for watching another episode of In the News. I'm your host, Freddie Shaban. Stay safe, healthy, and happy.